in my inner sense, no, see, I was thinking that, okay, at least he is not injured, and then he's not so badly injured and kept half alive. So that was one thing, but it was not a solace at all. It was a total loss which shocked me, and I became haywire. He was my teacher. He was my mentor. He was everything to me. So with one shot, I lost everything, and that was the great loss. And the reason I lost my balance.
Good evening, viewers, and welcome to Chitta Media. I'm your host, Sharan Sethi. Just a few days back, we observed the anniversary of 26/11 attacks, where hundreds of innocent civilians were brutally murdered by terrorists. Since then, there has been a lot going on in the country. And when it comes to the 26/11 attacks, the sacrifice and save done by our soldiers, our policemen will never be forgotten. The valor, the bravery with which people like Major Sandeep Unnikrishnan fought will be etched in this nation's memory forever. Joining today for a conversation is Major Sandeep Unnikrishnan's father, Mr. K. Unnikrishnan. Sir, namaste. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, namaste. Let me bow in front of you and offer my humble pranams for all the seva and service that you and your family have done for this country, sir. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
Sir, not a lot of people have discussed this, but you're a former ISRO officer. What led you to join the organization, and what was your role at ISRO? If you could tell our audience about that.
Yeah. I have been working in a couple of private firms, and when a chance came, it was an open advertisement, and I applied just on a piece of paper, and then I was called for interview. And at that time, it was not a fully governmental organization, so I had the liberty of choosing my career. In the sense, I did not have to so strictly say that I'm joining a government organization. It was an autonomous organization, and all freedom and everything was there. So that was one reason. And also the insecurity of private organizations. So, that was from one side it was there, and then it was a very good opportunity. That is, it's not a government, but I have a job safety, job security, and then chances of promotions. That's why I decided.
So ISRO has gone through a major transformation from what it was back in the 60s and 70s to what it is today. So you must have witnessed that journey, from the last 2 to 3 decades ago.
Yes. No. See, actually, we started INSAT from scratch. So let's see. We started the operation, what is that called? The fundamentals of establishing a operational system, and it was very nice to start from this on a blank paper. So there were no background papers or anything like that, and then the global tenders for the satellite as well as the launch vehicle, both were outsourced, and that was the time I joined the organization.
Right. And maybe a few years before or after, you are blessed with a son. And how was Major Sandeep Unnikrishnan as a child? What was his childhood like?
He was a very healthy child, and my wife and we were very happy to receive him. And he, in the early childhood, he was very curious, and just like a normal child, he used to ask questions. And I wanted him to study in a good school in the nearby. The best school was the Frank Anthony Public School. It was an Anglo-Indian school, and so I was so particular. At those days, it was not money which mattered. It was the child's ability. That was the first thing, and first come first serve. So I stood in a queue, to be honest, at 7 o'clock in the previous evening till 5 o'clock in the morning. So I wanted to ensure that he gets the best school for his studies.
Right. And was he always determined on joining the armed forces?
No, not at all. He would have thought about it from the 8th standard onwards. That's what. Then also we were not knowing that. So his classmates say that from 8th standard onwards, he was talking about physical activities, more physical activities than studies, rather changing the image of a bookworm into more physical activities and then studies as a secondary. So to be frank, he would have started at the age of maybe 13 or 14.
Right. And is he the first person in your family to join the armed forces?
Yes.
So what was that like? Because normally you see a lot of children who have fathers who served in the armed forces, but for the first time, if your child is actually joining the armed forces, and especially if you're a family that does not have that background, it does make you slightly nervous.
No, actually, we were not in favor of admitting him in NDA, or his efforts were on his own. I have no role in that, and none of the family members had the role in that. So coming out, many of his classmates, as well as in the residential area, he had friends. So they all had appeared the UPSC exam for the NDA entrance, and many of them could not make it because they were not so serious about it. It's not that they had no brain or anything like that, but he was so determined, and then he actually applied twice. So after the first exam, this thing also, he got an entry. Maybe a little bit of difficulties. His first choice was Navy, and he could not get that because of little eye defects. And then he went for a medical appeal, and that what is it called? That prepared he was, and he got it after 1 month. 1 month.
And one of the first big postings that he had was during Operation Vijay in Kargil. What was that like? This was back in the day, almost 2 decades ago.
No. The thing is that his unit did not have an actual participation in the Kargil operations. Right. He was standby for the if war would have extended another 1 week or 10 days, definitely this unit would have moved in. So they were in standby and in preparatory arrangements. I don't know actually what it is, and then I assumed that this was the thing. So 7th Bihar did not participate in Kargil war directly in the front.
Right. And what about the other postings that he held before he became an NSG? And what was different, in the lifestyle in terms of how you communicated with him? What was different once he became an NSG?
No. NSG is under the Home Ministry of Government of India. So this is a deputation actually from the armed forces also. So there are 2 wings, the 51 is Special Action Group and 52 is Special Action Group. So these have 2 specific functions. 51 SAG is anti-terrorism, and 52 SAG is concerned with hijackings. So 51, he was in 51 SAG actually. That is, there will be a screening and willingness to join the elite force of the government of India. I don't know what is the inner competence or anything like that, but only selected people, and then those who are willing to take some adventure and also ready to do very good service, meritorious service, and that would be the thing. So his postings were, in army, the unit is the people, those who decide his assignments. So he was posted, I think, if I remember, 2-3 stints. That means 2 year, 2.5 year period in the field, mostly in Jammu and Kashmir, and 1 or 2 peace postings, one in Hyderabad and the other were in summer in northern India.
Right. And did you have an idea of that Major Sandeep would have been involved in during 26/11 attacks?
No, I didn't have. But
when was the first time that you got to know?
After his departure.
Right. And obviously his martyrdom came as a shock. What was your first reaction?
Obviously, there is a saying that, if you pinch yourself, then only you will know the pain. So if otherwise, if it does not happen to you, you are not a party to that. So
right.
I felt for the first time, and that was the ultimate. So he had one intention, that is, not intention, that he had one wish. During some conversation, he had told me that I don't mind dying for the country, but I don't want to get injured and then getting all kinds of sympathies from people. See those who this has happened to you, or to the loss of a limb or something like that. So in my inner sense, I was thinking that, okay, at least he is not injured, and then he's not so badly injured and kept half alive. So right. That was one thing, but it was not a solace at all. It was a total loss which shocked me, and I became haywire.
Right. And I saw in an interview you gave a few months back or years back, the reason why, honestly, this is a phase where I was growing up as a child too. I mean, I was probably in school 10 or 12 years old. And one thing that struck me is that since I've always wanted to become a journalist, I saw the insensitivity with which a few organizations carried themselves. And more than anything else, this is also putting not just a person's life, but also the national security at risk. This entire episode must have been very traumatic to you.
That is part of life, actually. So you cannot expect everybody to be pointed towards the target or anything like that. So life is how you take it. So if you are sincere and then ready to do something which is special, or you are sincere, it counts. Your sincerity and hard work, how far you can do that. See, some people may not be, they will do something and then they will get away. So if a person wants to have, and then when a person is leading some operation in armed forces also, he cannot escape from that. So in the middle level. So if somebody at this very senior level, they may be giving commands and all those things, but he was involved in the operation. And then, I am talking about 26/11 specifically. So many people criticize him that why did he go alone? Why did he not take the protection of somebody else or something like that? There are several hundreds of reasons for that. So I mean hundreds of reasons for that. See, many people were injured in the course of the day of one day full operation. So he could not tolerate that. No, he used to say that if something goes in an operation, I should be the first person to go. So and he was the training officer in the Q1 SAG of NSG, and he had all the responsibility to do that.
And if you could recall some of the fondest memories that you had, with your son.
That's an odd question, actually. So I have, with my son, I have quite a few things. See, I cannot explain that. So he was my teacher. He was my mentor. He was everything to me. So with one shot, I lost everything, and that was the great loss. And the reason I lost my balance. So he was totally up to date, informed, up to date, and he could analyze anything so easily, and his grasping power was excellent. So all these qualities, none of them I had maybe about 20%, 25%. So I was just thinking that he should be able to pursue all these things, and he will have a purposeful life. See, that was my imagination about his life. So when this happened, I lost everything just in a second. So you can imagine what will be the shock, or what will be my expectations gone just like a pack of cards.
Right. And in your own words, and you may choose not to answer this, is there a difference in the India that we had 20 years ago, 30 years ago, or how is India today as a country? Have we evolved from that?
Definitely, I like to answer that, because we will learn from experiences. We never had a 2611 before. So after the 2611, Mumbai itself is protected in such a way that the police people are, they have done a very good job in improving their force one. There are a lot of things. Now they expect. See, previously we never expected something. So the security scenario for any nation is depending on the experience they had, and also the world experience. From 9/11 we have learned so many things. So just like the 26/11, when people go for training, his own unit went for training after this incident, and they were well informed about it, and then they wanted to know all this. So security situation improves when time passes. Time passes. Then we will have more experiences, and we will try not to repeat the same mistakes, if at all we have done. So security situation is improving, definitely, but not all the people are interested in improving the security or anything like that. There are controversial reports everywhere. That government was not interested in security. This government is not interested in that. And our own people are going outside and then working for the enemy. See, these are all happening for every country. It is not for India alone. But definitely security is definitely improving, and we are not as we were in 2008.
Right. So, and final message for our viewers from your side.
See, when a child grows, as a parent, we have a lot of responsibilities, because the child decides after a few years. See, you will become old. See, in my case, the child decides everything. So you have to frame him, or otherwise you have to mold him in such a way that you are not living for you alone. The easiest way is that to be selfish and then make your career best, and live for yourself or your family. But at least some time every day devote to somebody other than your family or other than your people. So I don't mean that your own countrymen or anything like that. For humanity, do something for the humanity, or at least try to understand what is the requirement of humanity, and you mold them in such a way, him or her, in such a way that there are people living outside your family, outside your viewpoint, and you can differ with people for something like that. But after all, we are all one family, and there is no divide or anything like that. The only thing is that if somebody is, annoying you, then that is a different issue. And also, very importantly, Sandeep had the quality that he could not tolerate injuring an animal himself. So an innocent animal, when it is actually injured, he could not tolerate that. Then you can imagine that an innocent person dies in an operation which he is in. What would have been his temperament?
That is what mesmerizes me all the time, because from what we've read and heard about Sandeep Ji, he was a very calm and composed person, but also the bravery and valor with which they fight is what honestly surprises me. So what goes behind the thought process, and what makes a person so patriotic that they would actually pick up arms for the country, but in reality, they are such nice human beings?
We have a misconception that, a soldier picks up arm for killing. That's totally wrong. Correct. He is trained to use it in such situations where it is essential. Other than that, Sandeep himself had told me that nowhere the training anywhere in the world, training is not for killing people. It is to stop killing. In an organized force, it is just like that. You can see a real soldier, maybe something like that. He will never use force in the civilian area, or he will not even talk about killing people. So his ability he will use it as a last resort when nothing works, and then seeing innocent people dying in front of you. So explanation is that a calm person only can decide like that. If you are getting emotional by seeing all those things, and then if you are using your weapon or your power or your energy for wrong reasons, he's not a soldier.
Correct. And I think somehow these are the values that mold the principles of the Indian Army, and that's what makes it different from different armed forces in the world.
Definitely. Yes.
So again, thank you so much for joining us today. Once again, I think the nation gives their humble pranams to you and your family for the sacrifice and seva.
Thank you. I wholeheartedly received that. Thank you very much.
I'm really glad you could join us for a conversation today.
Thank you.
Please remember to subscribe to us and switch on the notifications for this channel. For our other social media links, more content, and to support our work, please visit citti.net. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.